He says, I think I can help you. We got to petition the court with a written document. You can put your mark right here in the paper. I put my mark here in the paper. He says, now we're going to give this to the judge. And then we're going to need some money for paperwork. I says, God will point me in the direction of people who's got the money. He pointed me to the churches. He pointed me to the Van Wagers. They all gave me money, and I gave it to the lawyer. He said, oh, this is quite enough. He says, now all we have to do is pray and wait. Whenever I hear something, I'll let you know. Oh, I went back and I continued to work at the Van Wagers. I prayed and I sing. 1, 2 months passed. I prayed and I sing and I prayed and I sing. 3, 4, 5 months passed. Oh, I said, oh, please, dear Lord, I need you now more than ever. I prayed and I sing. 6, 7 months passed. Going on about a year time, the Lord says, ma'am, good news. Peter's on his way back to New York City. Oh, I said, oh, thank you, dear God, thank you, dear God, thank you. The day Peter came back. Oh, the horror. What did they do to my son? He was scared and mourning, his clothes was raggedy. And I could see all the beating marks. Oh, my poor son, my poor baby. I reached out to grab him, but he ran under a table. He was making sounds like an animal. I said, oh, Peter, what have they done? Oh. I remember the song I used to sing when he was a little baby. Oh, little baby, don't you cry. Oh, little baby, don't you cry. I think he remembered. He started coming from under the table. Oh, I was able to hold him again. Oh, I held him next to my bosom. Oh, that poor little baby boy. Thank you, dear God. Oh, I thank the lawyer. I thank the judge. I thank the churches. I thank the Van Wagners. I thank everybody who helped me bring my son back home. Oh, and I went to the Van Wagners. I said, I've been a burden on you long enough. I've got to make my own way now. They said, no, Belle. You and your son and daughter, you all can stay here for as long as you like. I said, no, I got to make my own way now. So I took Sophie and I took Peter by the hand. Everything we had was on our back. I didn't know anybody in New York City. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't have any money. I didn't, no food, nothing. But we went into New York City and there were so many people there about to knock us over. Oh, that New York was something else. There were buggies all around. And there were ships in the harbor and birds flying. And the buildings, some were short and some were tall. They're all connected together. And we just walked through the crowd. And there were people sitting down by the buildings begging for food, saying, please, can I please have, just give me a piece of bread, but I didn't have nothing but what was on. If I had something, I would give them, but they were lying out hungry. I don't know. We just kept walking. And then I saw a cross. I said, that must be a church. We went there. It was the St. John Methodist Church in New York City. I told the minister my story. He said, well, we've got a little place in the back where we keep all of our hymnals and brooms and things. It's very small, but at least you'll be out of the weather. I said, I'll take it. I'll take it all, and it was really small. Oh, and of course, I dust the hymnals off, and I put the chairs in a nice straight line and made sure everything was nice and neat. And he went to worship with them on Sunday mornings at St. John Methodist Church. But I didn't like the arrangement they had. They had all the black people way up in the top in the balcony, and they had all the white people down front. I said, now, if God were to come here right now, I want to be able to run down the aisle and say, it's me, God, it's me, Belle. And I want to be able to meet him and just touch the hem of his garment. But if I have to come all the way from the balcony, down the flat floor, down the steps, and down the aisle again, God would be gone by the time I got down there. So I didn't like that at all. I said, I got to find a place of worship where I can sit down front in case God comes. I want to be the first in line. So I went out to find me a place of worship. I didn't too far because I didn't want to get lost. Every day I would go a little further and I would come back. One day I heard hymns being sung. So I followed the hymns being sung. I looked in the window. There was a lady praying to God. And when she finished praying to God and thanking God for everything that God did, she started shouting. And she fell on the floor. And everybody got in a circle around her. I said, that's where I want to go to church. It was the AME Zion Church in New York City. So I stayed in the back of the Methodist church. I went to worship at the AME Zion Church. And this is where I want to go. This is where I want to worship. By now, Peter was getting older, getting himself into trouble. Twice I had to go down to the constable office. And he said they didn't want to put him in jail, so we had to go down and get him. He says, what can we do for Peter? He says, there's no work. Everybody's pretty much starving. You can see the hungry people. But he said, I heard the Merchant Marine is hiring. So we signed Peter up for the Merchant Marine. He studied for 3 months. He got his certificate, put on his uniform, and was tall and handsome. And he sailed off on the SS Nantucket. Oh, that was a happy day. He says, please forgive me, Mom, for all the trouble I caused you. I said, oh, Peter, you didn't cause me no trouble at all. And he would write letters. They would read the letters to me. But after about a year, the letters stopped coming. I don't know what happened to Peter. Did he get killed? Did he fall overboard? Did he move to a faraway place? I lost my son for the second time. I never did find out what happened to Peter. By that same law of 1827, my husband Thomas also moved to New York City, but we just agreed to go our separate ways. But my daughters were still back there. And I said, please, dear God, go and touch Dumont's heart. Touch his heart. And something told me to go back there. When I went back there, he met me at the gate. He says, come in, Belle, and have a seat. He says, please forgive me. Please forgive me, Belle, for all the wrong things I did to you. He said, that slavery is one of the meanest things one man could ever do to another. Please forgive me. I said, oh, thank you, dear God. Oh, thank you, dear God. You touched Dumont's heart. He said, you can let your youngest daughter, Sophie, come and live with her sisters. Now, your daughters will have to stay here until they're 25 to be free for that New York law. But I'll treat them with the utmost respect. I'll make sure they have food and clothing, and they're warm, and they will never be beaten or sold and treated badly, ever again. So I would bring my youngest daughter, Sophie, let me stay with her sisters while I go out to New York and work. Oh, I said, thank you, dear God. Oh, thank you, dear God. Oh, dear God, you never failed me. I've been calling on you for so long. You never failed me, dear God. So I continued working. I took in clothes, and I would wash clothes. And that's how I made a few pennies here and there. One Sunday, I was coming back from church. I saw a gentleman on the street in a long robe with a beard. His name was Matthias. He belonged to the kingdom, a big commune on the outskirts of town. And he was saying to the crowd, everyone is equal. There should be no black and white. There should be no man and woman. Everybody should be equal. When everybody left, I shook his hand. I said, you know what? I'm thinking the same thing. Women should be equal to men. There shouldn't be black and white. He says, you can come and live with us if you like. And I needed a place to stay. So I moved into the kingdom commune in the outskirts of town. And of course, I started with the cooking and the cleaning and helping out. But I didn't like the goings-on there. Men and women were beginning to take baths together. Anybody who wanted to marry somebody else, whether they were the husband or wife, they thought they were better, they would just marry that person. Then Matthias mysteriously was murdered. And they said I had something to do with it. Because I was the cook, I probably poisoned him. So I had to take him to court to get my good name back. Went to court. I got $14.75 for that case. Got my good name back. Second time I went to court, I says, I like this law. I like this law a lot. I got to tell people to find refuge in this law, especially my people, because this law is good. I like the law. But I didn't like the goings-on there, and I says, Lord, what would you have me to do there, Lord? What would you have me to do? God said, Belle, be about your father's business. I immediately started to pack. They said, Belle, where are you going? I says, I don't All I know is God told me to be about his Father's business. God told me to walk up and down the countryside to preach about the ills of slavery and to tell women folk to stand for their rights. So that's what I'm going to do, and God told me that's what I'm going to do. So that day I left New York City with $2 in my pocket and a song in my heart. So I walked along my home. I said, now that I'm a free woman, I need a free woman's name. What shall I call myself? So God told me to go up and down the countryside. God told me to sojourn the countryside to talk about women's rights. God told me to sojourn the countryside. I am a sojourner. I am a traveler, a sojourner. That's it. I'll call myself Sojourner. I like that. I kept on humming and I kept on going. Now most people got two names. What should my last name be? Wherever I go, I'll speak the truth in the light. God is the truth in the light. Let no other man come before him. Wherever I go, I'll speak the truth in the light. Wherever I go, I'll speak the truth. That's it. My last name will be Sojourner Truth. From this day forward, I shall be known as Sojourner Truth. I like that. Or I would go up and down the countryside. I would start to sing. People would gather around. I would tell them about my days of being a slave, being sold 3 times, and the beatings. Oh, the meanness. When people would begin to gather around. And sometimes they would have stones to throw at me. And I would start to sing, and they would drop the stone. And then I told the women folk you got just as much rights as the men folk to work and own your own property. Oh, and the word got around. Each time I went into, the women would begin to gather around by the drove. It got so bad, I had to get a secretary. Keep track of all the places people wanted me to come and speak. Oh, and lady friends would come by the hundreds. I didn't have to worry about places to stay. They would let me stay in their house, give me a ride in their buggy, give me a ride across the river in a riverboat or even in their canoe. Oh, they would begin to gather around. And then I had this little book I traveled with called My Little Book of Life. Everybody that I meet, I had them to sign my little book. Now I read you some of the people who signed my little book. President Abraham Lincoln,